Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Vessalatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. Amma ba'd. Welcome back, everybody. January 2026. Life is passing pretty fast. Uh, we have been talking about the 6 satanic tactics, stratagems that every Muslim, every believer should be aware of. So far, we have covered the first 4 satanic stratagems. Today, we're going to talk about the 5th one. Let's quickly recap what those 4 satanic stratagems were. The first tactic that devil, shaitan, may deploy against believers is desire for rank and position. Hubbu jah. The second tactic was fear, hissi khawf. The third satanic stratagem was greed. The fourth one is nationalistic feelings or racism, in a sense, that we discussed last month. And that brought us to the fifth satanic stratagem, satanic tactic, that is egotism. Right, so let's share the screen and start studying the text. Okay, I hope you can see this. I'll just make it slightly bigger. As I always say, we want to focus on the text rather than me doing all the talking. So the fifth satanic stratagem is egotism. But before I start reading the text, one time somebody said, someone pretty important, he said, most of our problems in the modern world is not economical nor ecological, but they are all ego-logical. You see the pattern: economy, ecology, egology. I really liked it. It summed up almost everything: the wars, the famine, inequality, you name it. Deep down, the root cause is almost always ego, because someone somewhere certainly wants more for himself than anyone else. So ego, if you put yourself at the center of everything, that would naturally bring a lot of problems. So Bediüzzaman, almost a century ago, highlighted this as the fifth satanic stratagem, Dessisi Şeytaniye. He says this is what Shaitan tells you. He says, you should be at the center of everything. You should get everything. You should be the center of attention. So your ego comes first. And Bediüzzaman calls this a satanic stratagem, the tactic deployed by Shaitan. So let's have a look at the text. Profiting from egotism, the supporters of the people of misguidance want to draw my brothers away from me. Truly, egotism, man's most dangerous vein. So it is the most dangerous vein. I work for the government in the UK, and we work in teams. I am usually the peacemaker. So I just find the middle ground, tell jokes and throw some wisdom. And the team leader at some point says, "Oh, you're so constructive. I mean, you say so nice things." But I couldn't really tell her that I study Risale-i Nur and I understand these 5 satanic tactics. One problem I observe, because we work with brainy people, or at least they think they are brainy, it is very difficult to manage them. Because unless people feel this hierarchy, it is very difficult to move forward. For example, in the army, the system is being set in a way that there are ranks. So it doesn't matter how good or bad or poor you are in a given rank. You're a sergeant. It doesn't matter if the captain is better or worse, it doesn't matter. He gives you the order. So captain is always above sergeant and the major. It doesn't matter. So that's how they solve this egotism issue in the army, because if the floor is equal for everybody, there is going to be a struggle. Everybody think they are better than the other. That is what I experience in my workplace. Because we don't have certain ranks, everybody is kind of equal. It is pretty difficult to manage people because everybody is a superstar. Everybody thinks they are the best. Their idea is the best. So very difficult. So when I throw some random wisdom from Risale-i Nur, I do engineering work, but this is life, your knowledge of the Quran, your knowledge of Risale-i Nur kind of shapes your handling life in general. So this egotism is a big one, and I usually, find the middle ground and make peace. But if someone truly said, egotism, man's most dangerous vein, it is his weakest vein too. Somebody may think he's the best, and everybody knows he's not. But it is also the most dangerous, the weakest. How? Someone may approach to him and use him by, pumping up his ego. He says, you're the superstar, you're going to be the number one, you're going to be the leader, you're going to be the chief, you're going to get the higher pay. So we know he is not the best person, but it's very easy to manipulate that person. That's why it is his weakest vein too. They can make people do terrible things by encouraging it. My brothers, beware. Do not let them strike you with egotism. Do not let them hunt you with it. You should know that this century, the people of misguidance have mounted the ego and are galloping through the valleys of misguidance. Beautiful, beautiful. I would like to give credit to Mary Weld, who translated Risale-i Nur from original, because sometimes people say, oh, this is still a bit, tricky to read and tricky to understand. But she made sure the text didn't lose its originality. When you read Shakespeare, you expect to read a bit of all the English and the way he expresses himself. We don't sit down and simplify everything Shakespeare wrote to English. Similarly, we don't want to simplify everything that Bediüzzaman wrote, because what makes Risale-i Nur original is that style. So here you see that style that hasn't been spoiled. She translated beautifully. Let's read that again. You should know that this century, people of misguidance have mounted the ego like mounting on a horse, are galloping like horse galloping. They mounted the ego and galloping through the valleys of misguidance. Beautiful expression, very poetic, 100% original. So that's why we like the translation. The people of truth have to give it up if they are to serve the truth. This is the trick. I mean, Bediüzzaman is the teacher of the 20th and 21st century. It's the Müceddit, mentioned in the Hadith in-Nabi. We understand that. He's an Islamic scholar. Also, he's a lifestyle coach in a way. He is telling us how to conduct ourselves in general. He's talking about serving our faith in this text, but in reality, if you think about how you should conduct yourself in workplace, this also applies to your daily life. People don't like big-headed individuals. People don't like egotistical people. People generally like altruistic, humble individuals. Ask yourself, you're part of social life, who do you like the most and who do you not like the most around you? One pattern, 100% sure, egotistical people, people with big attitude and big head, are not really liked much. People who are humble, who lower their height down, they are liked more. We generally like humble people, especially when it comes to serving the faith matters. Because as Muslims, as believers, sometimes we do representation, da'wah, by our posture, by our attitude. You can be a Hafiz al-Quran, know Risale-i Nur by heart, speak 5 languages, could be a fantastic person, but if you are egotistical, I can guarantee people will not like you. So, if you are representing something as precious as your faith, you have to be humble. You should take the head of egotism, put in a drawer and close it. It is difficult because we all like seeing ourselves bigger than how big we are. This is within human nature. Everybody wants to be pompous and big and, admired and, praised. But in reality, if you are representing your faith, you have to set an example with your behavior and you have to be a humble person. So Bediüzzaman says, the people of truth, that's us, have to give it up if they are to serve the truth. So if you want to serve this religion, serve this faith, you have to give up your egotism. Because we are a nation, we are a group of people, Jama'ah. So you cannot be, you know, bigger than anyone else. You have to be at the same level as everybody else. If you're too tall, you bend your knees, lower your height so that you are at the same level as other people. Even if a person is justified in making use of the ego, since he will resemble the others and they too will suppose he is self-seeking like them, it will be an injustice to the service of the truth. In any event, the service of the Quran around which we are gathered does not accept the I, it requires we. That's why when you present, generally, I mean, can I just say, I've been living in Britain for a long, long time, and I work in British workplace. What Bediüzzaman said 100 years ago is the expected standard now. You don't say, I have done this, I have made this work now, I have discovered. No, you don't say that. You say, as a team, We have achieved this. When it comes to a failure, you said, and I'm sorry, I think I made a mistake there and let the team down. It is so today. All the successes you refer to the team. You say, we have achieved this. All the failures, you take responsibilities. I have made a mistake and I made the team fail. So Bediüzzaman said 100 years ago, you don't say I, but you say we. It says, don't say I, say we. Of course, you have realized that this poor brother of yours, good example, living example, humbleness, tevavu, humbleness. Bediüzzaman knows he is the mujaddid of the 20th century. He is the person to teach, and his reputation is everywhere. Even his nickname is Bedi'uz Zaman, wonder of the time. But he still says, this poor brother of yours, no ego, no selfishness, no egotism. He says, just like you, even poorer than you. This poor brother of yours did not set out with the I, and he did not make you serve it. Indeed, he showed himself to you as an ego-free servant of the Quran. Bediüzzaman says, look, we call him Ustad, we call him the master, but he says, we are on this in this together to serve the Holy Quran. Hizmet-i kutsiye, the divine service, and we are all servants to it. I'm not higher than anyone. I'm not letting people kiss my hand and, bend their knees in front of me. He says, I'm just like you. I'm one of you. He didn't start this service of the Quran with, I do this, I wrote this. In most cases, he uses passive voice. He doesn't say, I wrote this piece. He says, it's been made me write it. I have I have been made to write it. So he is passive in that action. He doesn't say, I wrote it. I have been made to write it. Yazdırıldı. Bana yazdırıldı. He doesn't say yazdım. He says bana yazdırıldı. So it is another example of not showing ego, but showing humbleness. Indeed, he showed himself, he does not care for himself and has made it his practice not to take the part of his ego. In any case, he has proved to you, he's talking about himself. Did you realize that? When he says he has proved to you, he's talking about himself as a third person. He doesn't say, I have proved to you that I'm not a selfish, egotistical person. The expression says, your poor brother has proved to you with decisive evidence that the works that have been presented for general benefit are common property. See, he says, I did it. He doesn't say I did it. He says he he did it. The third person. And he says everything we do is a common property. That is, they have issued from the all-wise Quran. Nobody can claim ownership of them egotistically. Even if to suppose the impossible, I did claim them as my own because of my ego, As one of my brothers said, since this door of Quranic truth has been opened, the scholars and those seeking perfection should not look at my defects and insignificance and hold back from following me. They should not deem themselves self-sufficient. For sure, the works of the former righteous and exacting religious scholars are a huge treasury sufficient for every ill. But it sometimes happens that a key holds more importance than the treasury. For the treasury is closed and key may open lots of treasuries. I reckon that those who are excessively egotistical in regard to their learning have understood that the published words, he refers to Risale-i collection in general, he usually refers to it as the words, but actually it is the entire collection. And there is a reason behind it. Maybe I can show how Risale-i Nur splits open. Everything is actually in the words. One word becomes the letters, one letter becomes the gleams, one becomes the rays, one becomes the appendices, layıkalar, one becomes işaratul icaz, the miraculousness of the Quran, etc. So if you can fold it back in, everything is in one book, that is the words. But the words then means entire Risale-i collection. I might actually show you that graph. It's on the back page of my book, and I'm sure I can find an image on the internet and show you why the words, sözler, actually means entire Risale-i Nur collection. So if you have time, I might come back to that and show it to you quickly. So let's go back the words. I reckon, I repeat this paragraph again. I reckon that those who are excessively egotistical in regard to their learning have understood that the published words are each keys to the truths of the Quran and diamonds swords smitten those who try to deny those truths. I think the reason he mentioned this bit, I had an academic background. I used to, work at a university. There is this weird problem of rivalry in most cases. And again, everybody thinks they are better than the next person. And when someone says, "Oh, I got this piece of information," and the person says, "No, I don't need it," it looks down to it. I think that's what was happening. When Bediüzzaman was writing Risale-i Nur, the words, small pieces, some Islamic scholars, they were a bit reluctant to read it, study it, because they think, yeah, we are Hafiz. I mean, we are already ulama. What do we need it for? And Bediüzzaman says, look, this is the key. It opened a lot of treasuries. So it was basically encouraging others. I know you're big, probably got a big ego, but this is something very precious. You shouldn't ignore it. But it's a common problem. So people think, I don't need that. I know better than that. The people of virtue and perfection, and those who are strongly egotistical in regard to their learning, should know that the students are students not of me, but of all wise Quran, and that I study along with them. Fantastic. I mean, Bediüzzaman writes all this, and this is his attitude to other scholars. He says, look, probably you see my name on the cover of the book, but we are essentially studying ilmul Quran, the knowledge of Quran, and I am also the student of it. I'm not showing off. I'm not telling the world I'm bigger than all of you. He says, no, I am also the student of the Quran. So we are studying this together. If to suppose the impossible, I claim to be the master, since we have a way of saving all the classes of the people of belief, from the common people to the elite, from the doubts and skepticism to which they are exposed, then let those scholars either find an easier solution or let them take the part of our solution and teach it and support it. The corrupt religious scholars are faced with a grave threat. Religious scholars have to be especially careful at this time. So suppose, like my enemies, that I perform a service like this for the sake of egotism, because people are accusing him of showing off and trying to be a superstar and bigger than everybody. They say, ah, he's serving his own ego. But Zaman says, suppose, like my enemies, that I perform a service like this for the sake of egotism. Since a large number of people give up their egotism and gather around a pharaoh-like man with complete loyalty for some worldly and national aim, and carry out their work in complete solidarity, does this brother of yours not have the right to ask for your solidarity around the truths of belief and the Quran by giving up egotism? Like those corporals of that worldly society, so long as he conceals his egotism, if even the greatest of the scholars among you were not to agree, wouldn't they be in the wrong? It is a good question. We always give this example. Uh, we are people of faith, people of uh, belief, and we should be supporting one another. But usually, we try to stop each other progressing further. But we show other people how they closely cooperate around an evil idea. I'm not going to give specific example because this is an online lecture and I don't know where it's going to end up because I don't want to get into trouble. But I leave it to your imagination. You see the massive collaboration and evil plan behind an evil idea. And you're just thinking, how can people get together on a falsehood to do something evil? And they do a perfect sincerity, perfect collaboration. How can they do that? That we cannot. It is sad. I mean, it has been historically like this. Within the same faith group, there are sections and sects. They really dislike each other and they try to prevent each other from progressing. Again, I'm not going to give specific example, but I leave it to your imagination. You can imagine within Islam. You can imagine within other religions. You got different sects within the same religion. So this is something satanic. People who serve the truth cannot get together, leave their ego behind the door, and do things together. It is difficult, sad, but reality. My brothers, The most dangerous aspect of egotism in our work is jealousy. If it is not purely for God's sake, jealousy interferes and spoils it. If the person is in a leadership position and if he doesn't show humbleness, if he's an egotistical person, this is the side effect. Everybody else gets jealous of him. So egotism triggers jealousy. Humbleness, on the other hand, triggers acceptance. Imagine you're in a team, someone is really good. I know that kind of people in my team. Very good person, very competent, but very humble. I am attracted, I'm drawn to him because I know he's going to share his knowledge, he's going to be beneficial to me, and I accept. I say, yeah, this guy is great. He knows everything and he's very humble. You see, it doesn't trigger jealousy in me. It triggers respect and acceptance, and I approach him more comfortably. I got another person, probably more knowledgeable, but he's a bit egotistical. I don't like getting close to him because his attitude triggers jealousy. And jealousy spoils everything. Just as one of a person's hands cannot be jealous of the other hand, your one hand doesn't compete with the other hand. Right hand cannot be jealous of left hand. And his eye cannot envy his ear. And his heart cannot compete with his reason, mind. So each of you resembles a sense, a member of the collective personality of the body we constitute. Fantastic analogy. Bediüzzaman says, if you are serving the same cause, you are one collective person, şahs-ı manevi. And you cannot be jealous of other part of the same individual. Like I cannot be jealous of ear, etc. So we are the part of the same body. We are, in a sense, a member of the collective personality, şahs-ı manevi, of the body we constitute. Your essential duty, springing from the conscience, is not to compete with one another, but to take pride and pleasure in each other's good qualities. One other thing remains, and it is the most dangerous. For yourself and your friends to be jealous this brother of yours. There are scholars of standing among you, and some scholars are egotistical when it comes to their learning. In that respect, they are egotistical, even they themselves are modest. They cannot easily give it up. Whatever their hearts and minds may do, their evil commanding souls, nefsul emmara, evil commanding souls, seek preeminence and to sell themselves, and even to dispute the treaties, risale, treaties, that have been written. Although their hearts love the treaties and their minds appreciate them and recognize their worth, out of jealousy arising from the egotism of learning, their soul want to decry the value of the words as though nurturing implicit enmity towards them. For then the products of their own thought can compete with them and be sold like them. But I have to tell them this because Risale-i Nur was very popular and people show interest to it, and some other scholars, they are a bit envious, a bit jealous, and they grew enmity, husumet, towards Risale-i Nur. And Bediüzzaman says this: even if the members of this circle of the Quranic teaching are leading scholars and authorities on the law, their duties in respect of the sciences of belief are only to make explanations and elucidations of the words that have been written, or to set them in order. For I have understood through many signs that we have been charged with the duty of issuing fatwas concerning these sciences of belief. If someone within our circle writes anything more than this due to a feeling in his soul arising from the egotism of learning, it will be like a cold dispute or a deficient plagiarism. For it has been established through numerous evidence and signs that the parts of the Risale-i Nur have issued from the Quran in accordance with the rule of the division of labor. Each of us has undertaken a duty, and we convey those distillations of the water of life to those who are in need of them. So Bediüzzaman says basically, you're allowed to do a few things. One of them is explain it like I am trying to do. He says you can reorder it, like how we compile this book, and write footnotes to it. So these are the three things you are allowed to do as part of progressing Risale-i Nur theology. Explain it, reorder it, and add footnotes to it. That's what you are allowed to do. But don't go out and try to duplicate it and write something similar to compete against it. I think, again, this piece was written with specific individuals in mind because there were a lot of scholars who were, interacting with Bediüzzaman, reading Risale-i Nur, and probably Shaitan was telling them, oh, I mean, you're Hafiz, you are as good as him, if not better. Why don't you go ahead and write something even better? So Bediüzzaman was clearly, speaking to them. I am conscious of time, but I'm going to quickly show you why Bediüzzaman refers to Risale-i Nur connection as the words. So if I may try to find that, is it this one? Let me see if it is. Yeah. So I saved this in case I need it. This is in Turkish, but I'm sure you can figure things out. I find this quite handy. Risale-i Nur collection has multiple books. The first one, the major one, is the words, sözler. If you look at sözler, the words, there are 33 of them. The 33rd word becomes the letters, mektubat. And in the letters, the 27 becomes three separate books. The appendices, Barla, Kastamonu, Emirdağ, Laika. Laika mean appendix, not letter. And the first letter becomes gleams. And in the gleams, 15 gleam becomes the index, the fihrist. 31st gleam becomes the race. 33rd gleam is actually Mesnevi Nuriye. And 30th letter is Isharat al-Ijaz. So basically you can put the rays into gleams, gleams into letters, letters into the words. So the words actually means entire Risale-i Nur. Okay, so I would like to stop here, and inshallah next month, that's February, we're gonna talk about the sixth one, which is one of my favorite, laziness. So it is the disease of this century. Thank you very much for listening.